Hello folks, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In this video, we will be doing a detailed analysis as to how and when did Nagaland became a part of India. Alright, in this we will be more of delving into the themes as to how did Nagaland become a part of India, what was the background of your Nagaland, and we will also be discussing about your rebel and insurgency movements. We will speak about the peace talk agreements and also the current status of the Naga issue. So it will be a holistic issue from pre-colonial time to the present time. Okay? Now, first and foremost, before your British colonized India, who were these people called as Nagas? See, Nagas do not mean any one particular tribe, they are a collection of more than 30 odd tribes. It is believed that they have had your Indo Mongolian ancestry and they came to India around your 10th century. Understanding? So, each tribe, that is your Nagas, means it is a collection of tribes with distinct culture, language, and also, let's say, even in the way of how the particular tribe works. Certain tribes have collective consensus, certain tribes have your hereditary decisions. So, based on this, each tribe is unique. There is no one single concept of this is what is Nagas, and they were not all focused in just one area. Okay, as in, there was not one specific location as to yes, this is the only place where Nagas lived, or this is what was your concept of Nagalim. That was later created concepts. Now, if you see the geography, they live in the northeastern area where the neighboring country is your Myanmar. Okay, if you see the geography of the place, it is a mountainous terrain, it is creating thick forests, and also because of this, there is a limited contact with the mainland. Now, in the Nagaland concept, now I'm telling about the Nagaland during the pre colonial period where the villages were mostly self governed and the villages were the main political units where all of the decision making would happen. Now, these villages had something called as councils. Certain tribes pay these councils, the chiefs were picked hereditarily. Understanding? In certain councils, these chiefs were more of on a collective decision making, they used to be brought about. Okay, so there is a concept of hereditary as well as collective decision making. Here there is no such concepts about any one central king or central authority. Understanding? So this is certain key important things as to how the units were functioning. Next, when we start looking into how the society and culture were. See, in the society, we see large amounts and elements of egalitarian society, that is, division of wealth, equal distribution of resources. So, somewhere on this line, see, we know society pay, we can expect 100% of it, right? But to a large extent, it was egalitarian. The next thing is they had strong community bonds and also they had oral traditions. They had distinct rituals, festivals, your hornbill festival that we speak. They also had this concept of head hunting. Again, this was not something to showcase the violence, but it was more considered as a protective and also to showcase the let's say the elements in the tribe. Now, how was the interaction with the rest of the world? If you see, again, because of the natural barriers, there was a cutoff, and also there was no any part of your spillover effect because of any giant kingdoms ruling. Okay, so because of that, they were more of autonomous and independent even before your colonial period. Now, what happened during your colonial period? The first British encounter somewhere happens in your 19th century, wherein your British wanted to protect its plantations in the Assam region. So at that point of time, they did not want let's say your Nagas or the tribes trying to enter into their places. At least the British called it their places. So they wanted to protect their tea estates. They did not want entrance of these tribes into these areas, but they were met with resistance. Okay, so then what happened? Your British gradually entered into your Naga hills also. Now, your British, they wanted to use, they had two policies: carrot, stick. Okay, that is force and diplomacy. So, they kept it in such a manner that they did not fully conquer, but they kept it under their control of the major areas. Okay, so somewhere to an extent, you can call villages were autonomous because they were not directly under the rule of your British. Okay, again, look at the word I'm using, not directly under the rule of British, but yet the British had control of your important areas. They also created something called as your inner line permit, which exists even still today. Inner line permit ka concept is you restrict the entry of your outsiders into the area, and this will protect the tribal lands, customs, culture, and also this will separate them from being exploited by the other sections. Now, when your government of India came in, also it classified Naga Hills. That is, they were showcased in such a manner that these are special provisions, and these areas should not be just as on merged into anything. They should be given the special protection status. Understanding? Then, eventually, in 1918, that is aftermath of your first world war, there was something called as formation of Naga Club. Also, there'll be huge entry of your Christian missionaries also in this period. Okay, wherein they try to create the concept of your Nagas, that is more of a unit that will represent the voice of Nagas. Now this Naga club eventually will end up serving as a organization. That is, this will be the first point. Your Naga club became the first point to what will eventually come during your 1946 period. Then what happened is 1927 comes your Simon Commission, and then we have seen in our history one of the things for as a response to your Simon Commission we do see is the aspect that the Nagas claim that they were different and they should not be included in the reforms or what it is meant for India. They have to decide, the Nagas have to decide in the way that they used to decide from the ancient period of time, and they should not be involved in this. So, in other words, they were asking for their right for self determination. Understanding? So, this statement is more like the aspirations of your Nagas was revealed. Then next what happens eventually we enter, and this is 1927 1930 periods. We enter the next decade, that is the 1939 to 1945 is your second world war phase. In this period we see major battles with your Japan allied powers, and large amount of your Naga territory pay your wars are being tried to fight with the neighboring kingdoms or take support there, where people used your porters and try to use them as guides. So this concept expose them to your war, and political consciousness, awareness, all of these things also started coming in. Now if you see with respect to the Naga club that I mentioned, right, now that will act as your predecessor for what it is going to happen here in the form of your Naga National Council, which was created in 1946. Okay, this was the first political organization or a voice out where they are telling that this is what Nagas want. Okay, the leader among them was, he was a key figure in this, it is AZ Phizo. Now this person was initially more moderate, that is they did not want to let's say on the lines of taking up arms, but later they turned radical. What was the objective of NNC, Naga National Council? If you see, first is they said autonomy within India. Understanding? So first stage is just taking autonomy within India. Second stage is with wanting complete administration, which will be specific of Nagaland and Nagaland people. That is our administration with regard to political, economical, cultural, everything will be dependent only on Naga culture. And the third thing, the third stage, now if we can consider it in stages, first thing is autonomy within India, second thing is separate administration, and third thing would be complete independence. At least that is what they had picturized. Then eventually 1947, Assam governor Akbar Haidari agreement was signed with Assam governor and your Nagas. This is called as 9-point agreement in 1947. Now, what is this about 9-point agreement means? This is where an important event happens, and this becomes a very key aspect in the later parts of our history. The way each group interpreted, the Nagas interpreted 9-point agreement separately, whereas the Indian government interpretation of 9-point agreement was separate. First, to know what that was, we will see what is this 9-point agreement. First and foremost, again, the Nagas, Assam, these areas, I told you, initially they were not having one geographical setup telling this is what is Nagaland. So these tribes part of your Assam, now when they came up with this particular 9-point agreement, first concept was, as of now we will have shared understanding, shared autonomy. That is, as of we will all be under India only, not separate from India. But in this, what we will be doing is, the Nagas will be given autonomy with regard to land, administration, judiciary, culture, understanding. So their day-to-day attributes and their daily lives, the political determination, the will, all of these things can be determined by the people themselves, Naga people themselves. But they will be within India and as a part of India only, not as independent of India. Up until here, there is no issue. The second part is where the issue comes, wherein they tell one of the main strategic points about 9-point agreement is, let's continue with this agreement. For how many years? For 10 years. After 10 years, the Nagas can review the agreement. Understanding, that is, we can go for any changes in the agreement. Now, what did your Nagas or your NNC understand means, after 10 years, first 10 years we are being with India. Okay, that is, we are a part of India. After 10 years, if we don't like it, we can come out of India, or we have the right to secede. We can walk away from Indian Union, is what their assumption was. Whereas from the Indian perspective, how they said is, now whatever autonomy you are having is completely yours only with respect to your judiciary, land, culture, administration. After 10 years, if you like, you can review this, and if you want, you can come under the ambit of India under having the administration, land, culture, judiciary, those aspects. Not that you can leave India and go, or you have no right for seceding. This was one of the major issues that started between your NNC, that is Nagas, and your government, where they both had the misinterpretation of your 9-point agreement. Understanding? Then eventually what happens? Nagas declare independence on a day before we declare independence, that is on 14th August 1947. They even mentioned that they are an independent and all those things. Again, it is eventually ignored. They couldn't, nothing much fruitful came out of it. Now, before we enter into what happens to the Nagas and India after India got independence, we have a small announcement from Legacy IAS Academy. For those of you who are looking to kickstart your UPSC civil service journey, look no further, you have found the right spot with Legacy IAS Academy. Why? We maintain our batch size strictly at 40 members per limit. What is the need of it? So as to provide you personalized and individualized attention. Now at Legacy IAS Academy, we also offer one-on-one mentorship, easy access to educators, daily mains answer writing challenge, prelims test series, interview mock test series, and also We provide holistic 360-degree coverage of your current affairs, and also we conduct CSAT classes. All our sessions in Legacy IAS Academy are in both offline as well as in online medium. For those of you who are working professionals and students, you can opt to our weekend services alongside our weekday classes. One of the main things about Legacy IAS Academy is if you would like to see how the classes are, you can book a demo session either in the offline or online. To know more about Legacy IAS Academy or the fee structure, you can contact the number given, or you can even check out Legacy IAS Academy website. Alright, now with this, we'll enter into our topic. So, what happened with respect to your Nagas and to India after India gained independence? So, this is the early stages of your Nagas and India after India gained independence. How was each particular prime minister going to interact with the Nagas, and how your Nagas have evolved? First position, that is your 1947 to 1952 phase pay. Nagaland, now if you see that point of time, the Prime Minister of India was Jawaharlal Nehru. He denied to even think about the concept of secession to Nagaland, and he said historically Nagaland has been part of your Assam. And he also placed the issue of Nagaland under your External Affairs Ministry. He also said that the concept that historically Nagaland has been your integral part of Assam itself is a definition that your Nagaland is a part of India, and therefore there is no such independent secessions called as Nagaland. Now at this point of time, your NNC, it more of boycotts, trying to accept any Indian laws. It starts having a issue with any particular, let's say, laws, aspects, rules of India. It starts to challenge understanding. Then next, now if you see, during your Indira Gandhi period, eventually the government also tries to bring in a huge amount of a negotiation. It tries to offer considerable amount of autonomy, but there is a trust deficit on both sides. Understanding. Now in this period of time, 1951, what your Nagas, that is NNC, does is they say they have conducted a plebiscite. According to the plebiscite, that is, they have asked the people to vote upon the aspect whether they want independence or do they want to continue with India. Who conducted this? NNC conducted it themselves. At least that is what they claim. Now, according to this, NNC told that 99% of Nagas want independence. Okay, but India does not recognize it, as because India did not do it, your NNC did it. And in this period of time, if you see, there is large number of parallel governments being formed. They start to create something in the form of Naga army, trying to go for your armed rebellion. Your underground operation starts. Naga insurgency also will start beginning. Okay, Naga insurgency means what? More of your violence increases. They start attacking government posts. They tell that these laws, acts are not applicable to them. They start ambushing and village raids, trying to loot the depots. And this aspects of what it is being done by Nagas, your Indian government specifically starts to view it as a secessionist tendency. So in response, what was initially about your negotiations trying to give them autonomy, now the political response also changes with respect to usage of force, because they are trying to again attack the government posts. And also, see, government here in this phase also, it does not completely take up force. It chooses both force and negotiation. Force, as in they start sending the army and also administrators and mediators for negotiations, but the ground level violence keeps on continuing. Even with the army deployment in the Naga hills, Counterinsurgency operations begins by the army, and also the villages who are suspected about, let's say, the ones who are supporting the rebel groups are also targeted. This also leads to regrouping of the villages. Curfews are put in, arrests are brought in, human rights concerns and all are started. So which means this is like a precursor or a background for the introduction of your AFSA. Okay, now your AFSA is your Armed Forces का Special Powers Act. With already existing, okay, anguish, the civilians now get even more angry over these things. Okay, and now comes your AFSA. Now with AFSA, which is introduced in Naga areas, what does it do? First and foremost, it will give army the sweeping powers. Okay, draconian powers are given. So they can arrest anyone without warrant, they can shoot on people with suspicion. Okay, and it all gives a legal immunity to soldiers to whatever actions that is done when AFSA is put in place. Lot of curfews. Okay, your movement, freedom of movement are restricted. Understanding, most of your fundamental rights are restricted. So because of this, okay, because of AFSA, there is a deep anger, resentment of and also increased alienation from India from your civilian side. Now this whatever starts in the Naga area starts spreading around. Because of this, now why it starts spreading around? See, now when I tell you Nagas, they are not any one region specifically. The Naga tribes are spread around your areas of your Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, Assam, understanding, and this side your Myanmar. So all these area insurgency starts spreading. It's as a spillover effect, understanding. Now your states such as Manipur, Northeast also starts getting affected. Now if you see the period of your 1950s to 1960s decades, there is a lot of attempts at peace through your Naga peace mission. One such is by your Jai Prakash Narayan, where he states that yes, see, Nagaland has a unique position. We have to negotiate with those leaders in a peaceful manner, and they go on for a ceasefire. For the first time, they tell that no, let's pause it, let us discuss on what we have to do. Okay, fine, both sides agree, because even the Naga side also, the civilians are facing the brunt, so they also agree. So this brings the ceasefire to an active position where the talk starts. Now this particular thing proved that initially, that is, we said Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru period of time, he had placed the Nagaland issue under Ministry of External Affairs, and he told there is no such concept of independence and all. Now if you see during your Indira Gandhi period of time, during Indira Gandhi period of time for Nagaland, the option was very simple: anything but independence. That is, anything but your secession. When we tell independence here, it should not mean like in a more of restrictive manner, but in a form of anything but secession you take. Understanding? So it was an indication that the government was ready for your peaceful talks and negotiations. And this led to, okay, talks happen. What does this talk leads to? Nothing. The talks fail. Why? Because the hardliners on both sides are hell bent on the same things. That is, Nagaland still wants complete independence or secession, and this side is not ready to give that. And again, the violence continues to grow. Finally, the ceasefire collapses in the period of 1967. Ceasefire collapses 67, but before that, certain other incidents also happens. What are those incidents? They considered giving statehood to Nagaland. That is, if they bring the Nagas politically, understanding, into the ambit of giving them a political voice, right to exercise, and wanting them to be in the position, they thought this would appease them. So India wanted a political solution, and your moderate Naga leaders were willing for a compromise, and they thought that okay, if we give them at least the statehood, they would at least reduce insurgency to a large extent. So finally, they went on for a 16-point agreement in 1960. 1947 period pe we saw 9-point agreement, and in 1960 we will see 16-point agreement, wherein it was signed between your government of India and your Naga people convention, which is more like moderate leaders, right? Now once this was formed, yes, a separate Nagaland was formed. This is on the 1st December of 1963. They got a special constitutional provision, 13 Constitutional Amendment Act, Article 371A, wherein they said the customary laws of these Nagaland people are reserved. Even the land and other resources are also completely under the Nagas only, and they will have separate budget and administration. So it would be better for them to voice out what it is and have significant autonomy. So what happened finally? Nagaland was added as a 16th state in 1963, officially 1st December 1963. This was one of the major concession that your India was ready to give at that point of time. Article 371A was also added through your 13th amendment to give special provisions to Nagaland. If you see, according to Article 371, what are the special provisions to Nagaland means that is no act of parliament in any matters, and only in these matters with regarding to religious practice, customary laws, or with respect to administration or judicial, with respect to civil and criminal charges and ownership and transfer of land, all of this cannot happen unless and until state ka legislative assembly will agree upon. Understanding? So if the state legislative assembly does not agree, and whatever we are talking is only on these points, not on the others. So this would mean that there would be considerable autonomy with Nagaland. Understanding? Now yes, this is a major concession that has come from the government side. Did it reduce the insurgency for which it was first place created? The answer is, it is not exactly. Meaning, your moderate Nagas were happy with the statehood. Okay, many accepted the statehood. They entered into electoral practices and they started with the developmental activities. Okay, then with the education, health, everything started on one side. The hardliners completely rejected it. Okay, especially your NNC and your Phizo, they opposed the 16-point agreement. They called as, no, this is something that should not have happened. You have basically sold us out. So Phizo even showcased his disappointment over this, and then he started controlling the movement from abroad. And what happened in this period of time? The underground activities, again the violence, insurgency, it keeps on continuing. At this point of time, new insurgent group starts to enter in. Okay, that is called as your federal government of Nagaland, which is a political wing of your NNC. Again, which means they start using ambushing, guerrilla warfare, again extortions, killings. They start running parallel governments. Okay, and they start having safe havens in Myanmar, and China was also aiding to this. At that point of time, your East Bangladesh was also trying to create this insurgency. All of this was happening. At this period of time, government now further even decided, okay, let's bring in your NNC. Okay, let's bring in your NNC leaders and the government, and we will go for the peace talks. Finally, they agreed upon that, and these NNC, who was running these parallel governments and all, no, now these people and government of India came together for talks, and finally they signed something called as Shillong Accord. They signed it in Meghalaya. That is, what is your Shillong Accord? If you see, first and foremost, they accept the Indian Constitution. Meaning, we will agree to be part of India. Second thing is, we will lay down arms and we will work within democratic framework. Meaning what? NNC will agree to be a part of India and not for secession. Understanding? So now NNC initially asked for complete autonomy. Now they agreed for working with India. Now this should have reduced the situation, but now here also again there was a lot of issues, because there were many let's say sects within the NNC itself where they did not agree for this. Meaning what? Many Naga leaders were not consulted, the tribes were not consulted. Again, the hardliners accused that this is more of a sign of betrayal, there is no real implementation, and all this started. Because of this insight, the factions within the NNC itself started having stark contrast. There was many killings, we see a lot of casualties. There is a split within the NNC itself. Okay, this is in your 1980s decade. Now, the three leaders, the hardliners who rejected your Shillong Accord, were your Mue and your Isaac and your Kaplang. These people rejected your NNC ka Shillong Accord, which led to the formation, that is your let's say this, whatever we called as your NNC, this got further split into NSCN, meaning what? National Socialist Council of Nagaland, which became more of one vocal demand for Greater Nagaland. That is, unite all the Naga tribes across India and Myanmar. Now, whatever your NSCN is claiming as the Nagaland territory would mean that whatever area that they are claiming would require lands from Manipur, would require lands from Arunachal Pradesh, would require lands from Assam, would require lands from your Myanmar. For this, all these other countries started protesting in the fear that they will lose their lands. Okay, especially in your Manipur regions, where already they're divided into hill people, valley people, your Meiteis, Kukizos. This further accentuated the difficulty. The spillover effect of your Naga started happening in all these areas. Okay, your Manipurka regions, Arunachal Pradesh, Myanmar and Assam, all this concept of Greater Nagaland concept started threatening all these states. Then finally, in NSCN itself, they have a split because of ideological differences. Two factions are created: NSCN IM, led by your Isaac and Movaya, NSCN K, which is led by your Kaplan. Your NSCN IM turned out to be more strongest compared to the both, and it is based in your Nagaland and Manipur. Whereas your NSCN K is that Kaplang, led by him, is more based in your Myanmar, that is your eastern Nagaland. Now, because of these different factions, it's led to more of your violent activities, again underground activities. This started. But the decade of 1990s, again the government wanted to try out with respect to peace talks with the Nagas. And also there was considerable decline of the NNC. They lost relevance because your NSC and IM became more relevant now. And your NSCNK, it was more active in your Myanmar region. So India decided that apart from only engaging in military front, let's start with political dialogue. And they wanted to involve both the force as well as negotiation. Largely they relied on towards your negotiation. So finally they went for your ceasefire of 1997. Now in this ceasefire, first and foremost they said this: violence should be reduced. Talks started happening at higher levels. Your NSC and IM leaders were allowed to come to the talks, but whereas they didn't have to surrender first. This itself meant that government is ready for the talks without any preconditions, means that we are ready for negotiations and we want to deal with the dispute. So there was considerable flexibility from Indian government side also. Your NSCM IM core demands, again if we see here, is first and foremost your Greater Nagaland. Your Nagaland threatens the land and territory of the neighboring states of your Manipur, Assam, Arunachal. Now this is also invoking opposition from these states. Why would they give up their particular lands? And they also wanted a separate constitution, and they demanded your Ezabu, that is your Naga constitution. They also wanted separate flag. Initially they wanted completely autonomy. Now they were agreeing for shared autonomy. But first and foremost, with respect to this demand, there was opposition from other stakeholders itself, which means other Naga groups started getting formed. Okay, because they did not all agree with the ideals of NSCM-IM. The other groups also started forming your NNC, NPJs, NSCN and all. Where this will come into picture little bit later I'll tell you. The government also, in order to maintain this peace security, it started bringing in your Indian Army deployment alongside your Assam rifles. The AFSA still continues to be taking place, but in certain areas they were to a large extent reduced and coupled with your developmental activities take place. In this point of time, 2014 there was a agreement reached, wherein they started using someone called as an interlocutor, that is someone who will speak on behalf of these particular people, Naga people and the government. So your government of India, that is with our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and your R.N. Ravi, who is the interlocutor, and NSC and IM leaders, Isaac and Movaya, they all came into the talks. But then what happens? Still your Article 371A remains strong. They still want statehood, but one issue with them is they want statehood and some other strong provisions, not just ordinary statehood. Meaning, they are claiming we want something more than statehood. And we want something on the lines of what your Jammu and Kashmir had. After your 2019, when your Article 370 itself was removed, your government of India is hell-bent on the fact that it will not go back to that. Understanding? And second thing is, it is telling where they are meeting with the deadline or deadlocking means your government is telling, see, we cannot disturb other states. We can't take land from Manipur, we can't take from Arunachal Pradesh, we can't take from Assam. Within whatever you have, let's strive for, okay, a reorganization, whatever it is we need, but we can't disturb the other states. On this, they are getting the deadlock. They want the greater Nagaland. These people are not agreeing that we can't redraw your state's boundaries. And also with regarding to the autonomy and statehood, your Nagas are still claiming that we need something more than statehood. Okay, this the specific with respect to somewhere around Article 370 aspects, what they are asking, the government is not ready to give. This is the deadlock feature that we are in as of now. Yes, as of now there is a peace in Nagaland, but can we tell we have a permanent solution? No, we don't have a permanent solution. Okay, with this we have come to the end of the content. If you like our content, subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, share it along with your friends. Thank you.